The Adventures of Steve and Dixie, Solvitur Ambulando, by Stephen Breakstone. Copyright 2025. Snippets from my journal. Episode 31, Month 12, May 1987. Side note, you might have noticed that I switched the title and the subtitle. And as a reminder, Solvitur Ambulando is Latin for you can solve it by walking. May 5th, 1987, Tuesday. The other day, Justin came up to hang out for a while. We started play fighting for a bit, and then Dixie showed me something for the first time. She started pulling on Justin's pant leg. She loves Justin, and I'm pretty sure she knew we were just playing. Still, that was the first time I had seen that protective nature in her. It's a good feeling. With the help of the bicycle Candy lent me to get to work a bit faster at 6:30 in the morning, I can now answer the third most asked question I get. The first two are, what do your parents think about what you're doing? And what about the crazies out there? The third question is, why don't you ride a bike instead of walking? The answer is, it's too hard. It tires me out, quick. It's not as bad as the first few days, but it does take getting used to. I never realized that it takes a whole different set of muscles to ride a bike. I find it very tiring, especially uphill, and I'm in prime condition. I'm sure it's because I'm just not used to it. Side note, or as I stated in a previous video, because I had undiagnosed asthma. The complete answer to that third question also includes because Dixie can't ride one, and because even that is too fast for me to travel. Riding back and forth to the golf course, I am well aware of how fast I go past things that could be interesting. Streams and trees, flowers, architecture, creative yards and landscapes, skyscrapes, etc. And if flying past things I've already seen on these roads while just running to get in shape, I know I would miss even more things on new lands I have never been on. As a walker, I can stop at any given moment by just not taking another step. A biker has to stop the whole bike and, more importantly, momentum. And then he has to restart that momentum, which could take a lot of energy, especially on the uphills. As a walker, that is never a hard decision I have to make. I just stop, at ease, at any spot or moment without hesitation or problem, and really see the things that are there to see, and to think the things I want to think. And then just start again. I just put one leg in front of the other again. Speaking of work, I have appreciated the opportunity Stan George has given me to work, keep busy, and make some extra bucks. I'm also having a new work experience. I am seeing another lifestyle. I am learning. And I'm trying to understand it. This last part is the hardest. The job I have been hired to do is part of golf course maintenance. Golfers can be very picky and uptight about the course. It could be a fun job, but you have to take the job very seriously. I'm only a novice, and so I was first given the jobs that are the least easy to screw up, such as filling water jugs, emptying garbage cans, pulling weeds, and mowing grass outside of the playing area. But within a few days after starting, I was taught and given the more responsible task of cutting the greens and the tees. The greens have to be shaved every day, and the tees get a trim every other day. This is a monotonous job that takes many hours of every day, as there are 18 holes. There's only one way of mowing them, and that is the way it has to be done. It's a one-person job, me being the person, and it entails sitting on the mower, going from tee to tee, green to green, from hour to hour. I find that the word monotonous has become synonymous with my Kansas experience. Walking along the road wasn't as boring as Oklahoma, but it wasn't as varied as Louisiana either. Although appreciative of all the opportunities, working on the farm got boring, my way to job wasn't very stimulating, and my town life went nowhere. Now I sit on a mower for hours on end every day, change garbage cans, and fill water jugs. Every day. Once again, I do not mean to bitch or crab about what I have. I have a lot to be thankful for, and I do not take it for granted. Without Stan's offer to work on the course, I could be in my apartment doing nothing, waiting for time to pass and or going for runs without Dixie. But with all the time on the mower, what do I think about? I think about Mel Flowers and Rich Blackburn, the two great guys who make this job so very relaxed and laid back. They impressed upon me that there's a job to do and let's do it. On the other hand, they say, it's not brain surgery and let's keep our cool and enjoy it. Hey, it's not an exciting job, but we're not playboys looking for life in the fast lane. Mel and Rich seem very content. They've been doing this for 7 and 13 years respectively. They get up anywhere between 4 and 5 in the morning on most days, they said. Early tournaments sometimes mean workers have to get to the course to get it in shape starting at 5 a.m. and sometimes at 4 a.m. or even 3 a.m. And after work, they go home to their families, eat, watch some TV, go to sleep early, and then they start again. They don't seem to have any problem with it. They seem very content. But I learn about myself, and then I also learn about others, and I start to see the difference. I cannot be satisfied with leading such a life. Honestly, I don't even understand how others are capable of it. That's how foreign such a lifestyle is to me. I have to consciously and logically attempt to understand that not everyone has the same desires to do, to learn, to grow, to see, to experience as me. Or is it true that others don't realize what else is out there? Or do they realize it and don't realize that they can do it too? Or maybe they're just not interested. Or maybe they're just afraid to do something different. I can guess, but I do not really know. How do people live this type of lifestyle? I really would love to know. And is it so hard for me to understand? All I know is that I would go nuts. I would go crazy and even just lay down and die. Perhaps the right there is the difference between me and the others. I don't know. Perhaps I'll learn with the miles how to understand this great mystery of life, about adult life in America. Or maybe I won't. Maybe that is just the way it is, and this is just the way I am, and I'll just have to accept it. I'm glad that this moment in time and these experiences, though, are only temporary, but it does give me more insight into how others live. And that is what I'm here for. It's one of the reasons I am walking across America. May 8th, 1987, Friday. After having adopted my daughter, Dixie, almost a year ago, I finally decided to get in touch with her former family. When I first got her, Mike asked me why she was given up for adoption. I didn't know and I didn't care. We would both start out with a clean slate. Her past and mine were not up for scrutiny. Our life together began at the time we met. The personalities we had, regardless of how our past developed them, is what we had to go on. Side note, I was adorably idealistic, wasn't I? It worked out great for Dixie and me, but realistically, these days, I consider it important to consider a potential pet's past, especially if kids are involved. But a few months ago, I had a change of heart. From papers I received at the adoption, I had the address of Peter and Elena Marina of New Orleans. I sent them an article about me and their former girl. I told them our story and I decided I was interested in Dixie's past and I requested any puppy pictures they may have had. They hadn't replied, and so I decided to call. And boy, what a phone call. This is what I found out. Dixie was the cutest, most playful, most loving puppy of all her brothers and sisters. She is AKC and she cost them $150. Peter, Elena, and the two small boys, and even their Cairn Terrier, Peaches, all loved her. They were heartbroken when they came to realize that it was not practical to keep her. I work and my husband is a cop, the very friendly Elena told me. The boys are at school all day and our new German Shepherd puppy didn't understand being home alone all day, even with Peaches. Peter, who's a policeman, tried to train her not to be a police dog, but to be as well trained as one. But it wasn't working out as well as we had wanted at her young age. She would get upset, and after a while, she'd rip out pieces of furniture after we left her. And we tried to keep her outside during the day, but she wasn't too happy about that either and let the whole neighborhood know it. Finally, we realized that we weren't home enough for her, and that just wasn't fair. So although it broke our hearts, we thought it would be best for her if we gave her up. There were arrangements for her to be adopted by a lady in Metairie, Louisiana, and we thought that that was where she was. It was such a surprise when we got your letter and the picture from the newspaper. We're just so very happy about that. The Marinas and I spoke for almost an hour. It was so special for me, and I think for them, to talk about the dog we had in common. I now know how such a wonderful dog would wind up in a shelter. It also explains why she loves to love and be loved, because that is how she was raised. And her intelligence also stems from an intelligent and loving background. They promised to send her puppy pictures when the pictures come back from the store. Side note, they had 2 or 3 pictures on a roll of film they hadn't yet developed. I received the pictures and God, they were cute. I still have them. But, and this is driving me crazy. For decades, I knew exactly where they were, and occasionally I would look at them. Now, amongst my more recent moves, I misplaced them. I probably put them someplace very safe and smart, but I apologize to all of you because they really are cute. So I decided to AI some pictures, which you can see now. They're close, but if I ever find Dixie's original puppy pictures, I'll be sure to post them. May 11th, 1987, Monday. I'm upset, sad, frustrated. I am dying to get going. I am psyched and I am ready. I am bored being here. Work is driving me nuts. And as the cliche goes, it's time to get out of Dodge. I know, it's only a few days after my last post expressing appreciation. Standard Steve, being aware of both sides of the picture. I am physically and definitely mentally ready to leave on Saturday. But the vet says Dixie is still not ready. She's not 100%. The joint is still sore, and that is not great. Another week could make a big difference, he suggested. It really kills me, but just like last year, I know what I have to do. It will be a killer week, but I'll get through it, and in the long run, it won't mean a thing. Hey, once we're on the road, the waiting will be over. The waiting is over once we're on the road. In the meantime, it's like the life is being sucked out of me, and I can only rejuvenate myself by getting on the road. But I can't get on the road. I do what I have to do, but not without my share of bitching. I'll be okay in a few days. Again and still, writing my frustration is therapeutic. There's no way to avoid the fact that Dixie will probably be limping on the road, and we might have to take it easy, take it slow. Worrying about her really does take away from an important part of the trip, the fun, relaxation, and pleasure. Yeah. I also know that problems are part of the experience, like it or not, and it will take a strong and smart man to work with it, not against it. Later. Would it be smart to postpone the trip until she's absolutely 100%? Wow. Believe me, she would have to be a lot worse off for me to consider that. I really have to get out of here. Later. I do understand the law of averages. Perhaps these few negative things are to balance all the great and wonderful things that have happened. Good fortune, good people, and health. The few bad things aren't really all that bad. I have much more to be grateful for. I am well aware of all that, but still, I hate misfortune. Yeah, I guess in certain ways I'm no different than anybody else. Side note. As previously expressed, my journal entries were also an outlet for my looping, frustrating thoughts and emotions about my challenges, the big or small, the silly or serious. Journaling, be it writing or in my recording, helped purge these thoughts. But still, sometimes you'll notice that the later journal entries that express thoughts that were previously journaled are examples of those times when, obviously, just journaling my thoughts one time wasn't enough. So I include these repetitive entries to express these looping thoughts, and perhaps you too can experience how monotonous and annoying they can be. So for better or worse, I'm purposely bringing you along for that ride. But on the other hand, these frustrating times, such as when waiting for Dixie to heal, it actually began a deeper level of accepting, tolerating, and appreciating the value of patience and to trust the process. First, it was in New Orleans and then in Dodge that I had to wait for Dixie to heal when I was really just champing at the bit to start walking. And then after we started walking, I had to slow down sometimes because of Dixie. And slowing down was sometimes quite frustrating for someone who grew up in a fast-paced New York City and a person with a need to feel like I was seriously accomplishing something. So somewhere along the way, I actually came up with the phrase, things come slow to walkers. That mantra became an understanding and something of a calming and grounding thought when things didn't move along as quickly as I would have preferred. But the acceptance actually came later because at the time of these journal entries, I was a work in progress. May 20th, 1987, Wednesday. 3 days to go. Barring any new unforeseen problems, once again, I have joined the ranks of the happy unemployed. I think I could leave on Saturday feeling comfortable that I experienced all that I was capable of here in the Midwest town of Dodge City, Kansas. I have shopped on Wired Up Boulevard, seen the Boot Hill Museum, worked in a bar, danced in a couple of other bars, worked in the country club, and drove up and down the strip blasting the stereo. I shared Thanksgiving and Christmas with a small town Happy Days American family. Some people didn't care for me at all, and some people treated me as part of the family. And I could leave Dodge City knowing that I got all that I was going to get out of it. That is very important for me to know. It is all in me now, and now it is up to me to remember and to use it in the future. In a few days, this reality will only be a memory, no different than the realities of when I lived in New York, my college days, and working on Bourbon Street in the French Quarter of New Orleans for 6 months. Dixie. As you have noticed, I made no entries since we were last on the road. Steve had written all the things relevant to my life. When we first got off the road, I welcomed the rest. I loved the farm, but after a while, even the farm offered me very little. There were no other dogs, no livestock, and the cats weren't very much good as playmates, and we didn't go for a lot of stimulating walks. Then we moved to Dodge. I had a dog friend named Rocky, but then he moved. Our landlord's dog was too old to play with, though, and life in town, in an apartment, didn't offer me much. My life was when Steve was not working, and we went running. It's a dog's life to be able to sleep happily for 18 hours a day, but I know there is more to life, and I have tasted it. I want more. My injuries? Big deal. I want to live. I want to run and sniff and hear and see and play and have fun. I sadly say goodbye to my friends, the Seaberts, who I loved. Justin was like a fun cousin, and Candy played with me like a real friend. Evie was a sweet aunt, and I loved to greet Glenn like he was a dad when he came home from work all dressed up in his suit. But let's go and see America again. I feel like a bear coming out of hibernation, like a blooming tree ready for a new season of life. May 24th, 1987, Sunday, Dodge City and Ingalls, Kansas. Walk Part 2. We had a good night's sleep and woke up comfortably at 9:30 a.m. We took our sweet time, and at about noon, Glenn Siebert drove us to the exact spot we were picked up by Delmer and Chris Brady so many months ago. Being Sunday, the Ingalls Cafe was closed, and so was the post office. In fact, Ingalls was closed, ghost town-like. The only thing happening on this late day in May in this tiny town was the awakening of a winter hiatus of work, reflection, and thoughts for a guy and his dog, or a dog and his guy. Very unspectacular for the place on earth, but quite an eventful moment in these two little lives. Dixie's in good shape. Her feet are healed as far as the eye could tell, and she's her old jumping, bouncing self. Her Adventure 16 backpack was full of her food and my rain jacket and rain pants. I snapped her fast text buckles together, made difficult for me as, In her excitement, she pivots in a circle like a spinning top. When I put on her backpack, Dixie knows we're going for a walk. But I've developed a talent to get her situated while she's in motion, though. And my excitement is as high also, but a little bit more containable. Also, and although being in shape, physically and mentally, it is nevertheless not an easy task to lift almost 45 to 50 dead weight pounds off the ground and onto my back. Groan, I moan. It symbolizes the effort of the moment and the thought that soon I'll be lugging it up mountains. But I know it won't be as bad as the initial lift. The pack will get lighter as I get stronger. In fact, it feels lighter as soon as I tighten the belt and adjust the weight to rest on my stronger leg muscles and off my shoulders. However, it is now carrying a Goosetown sleeping bag rated to -5 degrees and also a little bit more clothing. We said goodbye to our former landlord, our friend Glenn, and once more, we are on the road again. Up a few blocks to Highway 50, and it's onward and upward, northward and westward. What a glorious feeling. It was one step back to be in Dodge City, and now it's 2 steps forward. Well, many steps forward. The plains of mid-America surround us again. Just like so many months ago, though, we are once again not a visitor on the Midwest plains, but part of it. Later. I've often been asked, where do you live? I usually just reply and point to the dog laying somewhere near my backpack. See that dog in those packs? Well, wherever they are, that's where I live. Side note. In hindsight, I guess that sounds something a seriously homeless person might say. I get that now. And this reminds me, though, of when a young man once said to me after I delivered that standard response, and he said, "Wow, I never met a homeless person before." I don't remember my response to him, but I do remember thinking afterwards that of his perception of my then current lifestyle. Because I never considered myself to be homeless. I was just a traveler who was in between traditional homes. And in the back of my mind, I always had mom and dad's home, if necessary. So, no, I never actually considered myself homeless. The weather is just like we left it back in September. Overcast, windy, unseasonably cool. So the polypropylene shirt comes on with a t-shirt and a sweatshirt over it. I feel comfortable and very natural. It's almost as if the last 8 months were a dream and I just woke up and, as usual, I'm on the road walking with Dixie by my side, or in front of me, or behind me. Did I work on a farm? Did I become a real farmhand? Did Dixie really have 2 accidents that could have killed or crippled her? Did I really live in the historic cowboy and TV town of Dodge City? Later. There are no dates or clocks on the open prairie, but there are seasons. The prairie is not the same as we left it. Instead of crops being brownish tan and about ready to be cut, the tall grasses are green. It's wheat, and it's swaying in the wind, still with just a few more weeks to go before the combines and the custom cutters have their way. And the corn is just coming up. And the cool day is not of things to come, but a reminder of the past. It is spring, and warmer days are coming. And most importantly, I'm not the same person I was last autumn. Dixie is not the same dog. I am now the person I was up to last autumn, plus these last 8 months. I'm also now the person who has experienced walking 1,000 miles in a southern USA summer and had time to think about how it affected him. I'm a guy who now knows what farm work and farm life entails and will no longer romantically hope to have that experience someday. I'm now a guy who has lived in major cities on 3 coasts, New York City, San Francisco, and New Orleans, and lived in a small town smack dab in the middle of a nation. I've seen the lifestyle and the townspeople of both. I've had time to think about that. It's had its effects on me as a person, and it will affect the rest of my life. And I expose myself to the ever-continuing new moments of this life of mine. With all this existential understanding, I'm on the same road as so long ago, the same Highway 50. Yet, I'm not the same person. I've learned and I've grown. I've bettered myself in the eyes of the world, and more importantly, the eyes of myself. We will see. Side note, I definitely bettered myself in the eyes of myself, but as I now reflect, I'm not so sure that I bettered myself in the eyes of the world. In fact, I know some people who didn't think I was bettering myself at all, just slacking off, actually. But for the most part, except for a small group of people, mostly whom Dixie and I met along the way, who seemed to be impressed with my smaller and bigger picture, I don't think the world was really watching me or cared enough to judge me one way or another. None of these thoughts are actually self-deprecating. It's just I now have a broader perspective compared to those days when I originally expressed my bettering myself in the eyes of the world thought in my journal. Later. Like so long ago, the rains come and I am ready. Coincidentally and fortunately, under a shelter at an auto rest area taking a little breather. The clouds tell me it won't last long, and when they pass, we will move on. Dixie's looking great. Freedom and the open road are in her blood, and she's so totally enjoying being out of the recuperating apartment as she looks as if there was never a confused horse that swatted her foot. Maybe the last few months were a dream. Nah. From Dixie. I love this. This is the dream of a dog. Now, only if we could do something about the road and the cars. But I know the rules of the road and I know which side is my playground and which side is off limits. I like the woods best, or open land of any kind, but I agree that we have to walk on the roads if we want to eat and drink at fairly regular intervals. And Steve likes the towns and meeting people, so that's good for him too. Steve is wrong about one thing, though. I am limping a bit. I have a sore foot, and that's just the way it is. Whether he wants to see it or admit it, it exists. But I think I'll be okay. I don't foresee any problems. It doesn't really hurt, but the limp is there. Hey, keep the temperature cool enough, the asphalt shoulders smooth, water plentiful, and I'm ready to take on the world. I too am more experienced. I'm just a few months shy of my second birthday, and although I still have a lot to learn and more growing and maturing to do, I'm not the same puppy that grew up in New Orleans. I've traveled and seen more than many humans do, and I am doggone proud of that. And I know that when we settle down for next winter, I won't be just a tough sounding adolescent puppy, but a fun loving, worldly, or Americanly, dog with a capital D. Side note. As I close on this chapter, and as a reminder, I'll restate that you might notice that I do switch tenses back and forth, as some journal entries are being recorded while walking, and some are being recorded in the evening, but writing them about the previous day or days. So try to keep up. And as always, thanks for listening to my sharing. Peace.